Yo, what's up? My name is Varolz TMTG, and it is finally time for the Varolz deck tech. I did my best to spread out the deck as you see here on camera. There are a few cards off screen, but don't worry, we will go through each individual card one by one. This is going to be a long video. I recommend grabbing a snack, a drink, throw it up on the background on your second monitor while you play some games or build a deck or do something else in the background. And let's go ahead and talk about Varolz. This is one of the few commander decks that I have over 8 years of experience piloting. This and T-Lord or Lord of Tressorhorn are my two specialty decks, as I would call them. And it's kind of funny because they do a similar thing if you really boil it down. They are both Voltron commanders with the regenerate stapled onto their text, which makes them have this little extra bubble layer of protection as Voltron commanders, which is very, very important. A lot of people, from what I've seen in the commander space for Magic the Gathering, are very anti-commander. They're very anti putting all of your eggs in one basket, which I understand. And I think it's because a lot of people play Voltron wrong. And I'll do a whole video on that actually at some point. I think you have to play Voltron almost like an Exodia deck in Yu-Gi-Oh, where you are sitting there building up your resources, crafting your hand, and then you need to play your Voltron commander, attack in the same turn, and kill someone, or have protection at all times. If you are playing your Voltron commander with no protection, ideally 2 pieces of protection, you're playing it wrong. You're putting yourself out there, you're letting yourself get set back, removed, Swords to Plowshare, Path to Exile, whatever it may be, Fatal Pushed, even with Varolz, and it's putting yourself back so much. You have to play Voltron like a very carefully planned strategy where you really want to play for a specific big boom turn. It's all about crafting the perfect hand and then popping off in one go. But if you don't know Varolz, it's a Golgari commander from Dragon's Maze, I believe. 1, a black, and a green for a legendary troll warrior. And his main text is he's 3 mana for a 2/2. But he gives each creature card in your graveyard Scavenge. The Scavenge cost is equal to its mana cost. This allows you to abuse creatures with very low CMCs but very high power and toughness. The way that Scavenge works is you exile a creature card from your graveyard and pay its mana cost. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to that card's power onto target creature. We are almost always putting those counters onto Varolz, but this is not a counter deck. This is not a +1/+1 counter deck. The counters are really just to do enough commander damage to kill our opponents. And then he also has a sacrifice outlet for free stapled on that is also a regenerate and a heal bubble, right? Sacrifice another creature, regenerate Varolz. Getting back to that like safety strategy, I am almost never playing Varolz without another sacrificial creature on the battlefield. If I'm playing him without a single other, regenerate option, I'm playing him wrong. And I'm kind of putting myself out there at the edge of the cliff, just ready to be pushed off, right? You have to play very carefully when it comes to these Voltron strategies. Now, each of these pile of cards represents a different thing this deck is trying to do, and I will go through them all individually. This deck, for example, actually only plays 2 ramp spells, Soul Ring and Songs of the Damned. We'll get to that at some point, but here are the Haymakers. These are cards where if these are being played, the game is probably ending. I think these are cards that just win the game almost on the spot, if not on the next turn every single time. These are our Voltron cards. These are cards that will help us win the game with Varolz and with commander damage, which is this deck does not have to do, which is the beauty of it. This deck is really powerful early. You can often kill someone. Usually you're killing at least one person before turn 5 at least. Hopefully turn 3 or 4. Now to get the turn 3 kill, I do think I actually need to revamp the deck and bring in some 1-mana mana dorks, and we'll talk about that I can't get ahead of myself. We'll talk about that in the future. I think the biggest revamp I'm going to do with this deck actually is start playing a few more 3 to 4 1-mana mana dorks, and that will really curve me out at a lot better of a rate than I currently have. But anyways, we have our Haymakers, our Voltron enablers, our general value, which you can see a Skullwinder here. It's kind of funny. You would usually play E-Witness here, but I just have 2 of my other E-Witnesses are in other decks. This is general value creatures that you want to play before Varolz. You want to have these out before Varolz generally, but some of these can also just win the game, like Dual Port Cutthroat. And then here are your big Varolz enablers, your Scavenge targets. I only play 4 Scavenge targets in this whole deck, and I've never personally ran into a situation where I ran out of Scavenge targets and could not win the game from that point forward. Like I was always able to. I've never had that problem. I think the biggest thing you see in a lot of fun decks like this is people playing too many of the enablers and then just having infinite of those. I see that a lot with there's the Golgari Gitrod commander. Whenever it attacks, you sack a creature, and it kind of has a similar gimmick to Varolz a little bit, where you want to play these low mana CMC creatures that have like really high power, but like they can't attack or block, right? Until like some stipulation. And I see people play way too many of those creatures as opposed to just a few of them to really get your thing going and started, right? Laying this out did make me realize I am probably one of the weirdos who probably plays too much removal in Commander, and we'll go through each of those pieces and why I like them, and the differences of like Reclamation Sage versus Caustic Caterpillar in this deck is very important. I actually play both, but I might end up cutting Reclamation Sage. Next up, this is like cheating spells, like reanimation targets, natural order, eldritch evolution. This is like cheating in a big creature for free, usually reanimation, but not always. There are two like green ways to do that here. And then here is our big enablers for Varolz, or just enablers in general. These enable certain strategies to happen, like Corpse Jack Menace, one of the most important creatures in this entire deck. It doubles all counters. And then here is our graveyard fueling strategy, which was something I struggled with for a while. I think this deck had too few ways to fill its graveyard. It also had too few reanimation targets for a while, so I've added new big reanimation targets, and I've also added new ways to fuel the graveyard. But I think if anything could be buffed and improved in this deck, it's probably graveyard fueling and then 1-mana Mana Dorks. Specifically 1-mana Mana Dorks, because it does two things. Number one, 1-mana Mana Dorks allows you to play a card like Varolz on turn 2, which is really important. It's really important. There's two types of ramp curve in Commander. There's 1, 3, 5, 5, 7, etc, 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 and then there is 2, 4, 6, 8. So what that means is, you might, if you're like a Varolz play, if your commander is 3 CMC, you want 1 mana ramp. If your commander is 3 CMC, you probably don't want any 2 mana ramp in your deck. Not any, I shouldn't say. It depends on your deck, of course, but it's much less encouraged because it's not helping you get to that commander faster. If you just play a ramp spell on turn 2, you're not actually getting to your commander faster. Now, if you're full on ramp, if you're like Omnath, you can go Mana Dork into Rampant Growth, into, Cultivate, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for all I care, right? There are certain strategies that just want to put lands on the battlefield, right? We get that. But with something like Varolz, a little more streamlined, this is a very like curve-based deck. You're gonna want 1, 3, 4, 5, and then whatever comes after, right? The whole point of ramp is to skip a turn. We've got our Varolz. Our main strategy with this deck is to play Varolz with some protection and get an enabler, get a scavenge target in the graveyard as soon as possible. And then our backup strategy, if everything goes wrong, is utilize, if we can't get counters on Varolz for some reason, we utilize Varolz's sacrifice outlet as a powerful mechanic, because that's what it is. I think people really sleep on how insane a free sack outlet is on a commander, even if that sack outlet did nothing. Even if a commander said, imagine if there was a 1-mana commander, 1 mana for a 0/1 that just said sacrifice target creature, and that's it. You do nothing. You hang out with your friends. You sit around, right? That would be insane. That would be, in my opinion, still very, very powerful because of things like Lifeline, and we'll get to one of my favorite cards of all time. Lifeline is very, very abused in this deck. We have a few ways to recur it, actually, just in case, but the main win cons in this deck are usually Varolz, or Lifeline is our backup. Let's go ahead and first talk about, I think, one of the most important cards, these scavenge targets. Let's go through them individually. So first we have Death Shadow, of course, very famous card. Death Shadow is a 1-mana 13/13. It gets -X, where X is your life total, which is a good thing. You will often play this on turn 1 or turn 2 to get it into the graveyard, so that when you play Varolz on turn 3, you can scavenge it. An ideal play pattern would be something like playing Death Shadow on turn 1, killing itself, going straight to the graveyard, and then on turn 2 you play something as simple as like an Elvish Visionary to get more card draw and refuel yourself, a Zulaport Cutthroat, something that can just be a 2-mana value creature that can then be sacrificed to Varolz if needed to regenerate him. So you play Death Shadow turn 1, you play an Elvish Visionary turn 2, you draw a card, you play Varolz turn 3, and then turn 4 you do something like either Buried Aliving, Brawn, and Dreadnought into your graveyard and being able to attack for a ton there with trample, or giving him infect in a certain way for Phyresis. You could scavenge the Death Shadow on turn 4 and give him Phyresis and kill someone, and they have no blockers on turn 4. Congratulations, they're dead. There's a lot of like to infect or to obviously 21. You can do both 10 infect or 21 commander damage usually by turn 4 or turn 5. We do only play one infect card in this deck because we are not absolute demons. I played 2 infect cards in T-Lord, but that's because T-Lord is all about making a bad commander good. That is his whole thing. I think Varolz is actually just good. I think Varolz is deeply underrated. The fact that he is just so low CMC and so smooth to his curve, I think is criminally underrated. But as we have a lot of cards to cover, let's continue. Death Shadow, the best target in Varolz, and it's a pretty cheap card. One mana, 13 you get in the graveyard, you pay 1 mana, you put 13 counters on Varolz. If you have a Corpse Jack Menace, you put 26 counters on a creature for 1 mana, right? Like, Corpse Jack Menace really does break this deck, and I think that's something. If you can turn the real strategy, I guess, would be turn 1 play Death Shadow, turn 2 you can't really, so I guess it would be like turn 1 Soul Ring. You could do some combination of Death Shadow, Soul Ring, Corpse Jack, get it out early, be able to play your Varolz. If you have to sacrifice your Corpse Jack to your Varolz, you can. It's not ideal, but you can do it. Or play, if you have another protection for Varolz, you can play Corpse Jack on a later turn. You do not want to reveal your Corpse Jack before your Varolz if possible, but sometimes that's, because you want to be able to play your Varolz. The tough thing with Varolz is playing it early to get rid of its summoning sickness. You could play Concordant Crossroads in this deck, and that's, once again, a possible option that I've considered, but usually because of the regenerate bubble, I don't want to be that fast. I actually do have some protection. I don't know if I want to give my opponents that kind of double haste effect, right? The beautiful part of Varolz is, yes, he can kill people on turn 4, turn 3 to turn 4 to turn 5, depending on the deck build and yada yada yada. He can also win with this deck build. He also gets stronger and stronger the longer the game goes on. The longer the game goes, the higher my likelihood of winning becomes. I actually don't think I've ever lost a game if my lifeline has resolved. If my lifeline has resolved with Varolz on the battlefield, I don't believe I would love to start keeping track of these stats, actually. That would be awesome. I don't think I've ever lost a game, to show you how strong a sack outlet plus lifeline is, just getting to 1 end step, especially if you can keep it around and do other things, but we'll get to that, obviously, when we get to that. Death Shadow, easiest target. Phyrexian Dreadnought. Now, this card is very expensive. I am lucky because I am one of the weirdos who actually loves playing Stiflenaught, and I was playing Stiflenaught in Legacy, 10 years ago when nobody was playing it. Now it's really popular in pre-modern. This is like a $250 card now. If you are playing Varolz, just proxy your Dreadnought. If you are okay with it, obviously. If people like to own cards, you always get the YouTube comments of, oh, just proxy all the cards you own, which is like awesome and base. Like, hell yeah, I love proxying. Everybody loves proxying. I've never met someone who's anti-proxying, to be honest, out in the wild. I don't know if those people are just only on the internet or like what happens, but it's one of those, like, I think the Magic community kind of is fighting against a cloud, like someone that doesn't actually exist. I've never met someone anti-proxy, but I'm sure they're out there, to be fair. If you're playing Varolz, this is a $250 card. It's an incredibly good card for your deck. It's incredibly niche. It's only ever going to be played in this deck and in pre-modern Stiflenaught or Legacy Stiflenaught, at the 1% play rate. Just proxy it. I as a Varolz player who does own my Dreadnoughts, I cannot encourage you enough. Just proxy this card. You guys deserve it. You're worth it. It's a great card. It's really powerful. It's good for the deck. It's so niche. You won't use it anywhere else. It's just so much money to spend on one super niche card, even though it's my favorite Magic card of all time. It's my favorite Magic card of all time, and I'm telling you to proxy it for Commander, okay? Next up, the other 2 Scavenge card, which, to be fair, this should be replaced by a Hunted Horror, which is a 2-mana 7/7 with obviously drawback. So in the future, this will be replaced. I have to pick one up. I just haven't found one. I'm kind of patient about those things. Hunted Horror, this will be replaced with Hunted Horror. But for now, this is Hunted Troll, which is 4 mana for 8. That's all that matters. You're never playing this. This is 4 mana for 8 counters. That's all you're thinking about when you see that. And then Force of Savagery is 3 mana for 8 counters. So what's also great about 3 of these creatures, you never want to play Hunted Troll. All 3 of these creatures, if you draw them to hand, you can simply play them. They will all die, and you can get them in your graveyard. That is what, dude, Varolz is so versatile. I really could just ramp and rave. I really think he is underrated. I genuinely think he is powerful. I love building bad commander decks, and I love making bad commanders good. But Varolz is not this. He is just good, and I think people have slept on him for a very long time. The fact that you can play Force of Savagery, get it straight to your graveyard to scavenge for the next turn, it's a slow strategy, but having that versatility is insane. The fact that you can pay, if you draw these to hand, the fact that you can pay 2 mana effectively to play it, sacrifice it to itself, and then scavenge it is just so crazy. The fact that Phyrexian Dreadnought also, there's a 1 power difference here, yes, but Dreadnought being colorless is really, really relevant. The fact that you can tap Soul Ring to both play Dreadnought and scavenge him to Varolz is very, very important. that is very, very strong. All right, but that is our Varolz enablers. That is our scavenge targets. I would say I recommend not trying to play too many scavenge targets, and then also play Hunted Horror over Hunted Troll. What should we go to next is a beautiful question. I think next up should be Graveyard Enablers and Graveyard Fillers, because I do think that is like probably the #1 card you're looking for when playing this deck. You're looking for these cards to get these in the graveyard. That's the main first off strategy. Let's go through our best Graveyard Enablers. Our best 2 cards, the best cards you want to see in your opening hand are Buried Alive and Entomb. Buried Alive specifically is really important for Varolz because he wants that many creature cards in the graveyard. A lot of times with Buried Alive, it's like a backup option. Like, okay, you're getting like 1, maybe 2 creatures that you do want in your graveyard. Buried Alive with Varolz does everything he needs. If you don't know, Buried Alive is 2 mana and a black for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards and put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. You can grab both Dreadnought and Death Shadow. You can grab like what's it called, Corpsjack Menace, and like reanimate him and like get that synergy going. You could grab Dreadnought, Death Shadow, and Brawn. Keep Brawn in your graveyard, give him Trample. Now you have 2 massive scavenge targets. You could do 1 scavenge target, Brawn, and like Stinkweed Imp, which is somewhere on the board. I'm losing track of it, but Stinkweed Imp, and then be able to dredge on your following turns. I also do need to add a Golgari Grave Troll to this deck. I only have 1. It's in a different deck. So you would either upgrade. I probably would want both Stinkweed and Golgari in this deck. I really like Dredge. I think Dredge is super slept on. Well, to be fair, weirdly, there's a really good discussion here actually about like Golgari Grave Troll versus Stinkweed Imp. So if you don't know, see if I can find Stinkweed. It should be around here somewhere. Stinkweed! If I had to guess, it's probably, did I put Stinkweed? Oh, Stinkweed, you know what? Stinkweed's probably in the graveyard fuel. That makes a lot of sense because it is mostly, yep, it's a dredge target. Not even almost. I think, I'll just stand on 2 legs on this one. I think Stinkweed Imp is better than Golgari Grave Troll in Commander. If you don't know, Stinkweed Imp is dredge 5 for a 3 mana 1/2 flyer that has Death Touch. Essentially, it's not quite the same, but it's essentially the same. When it deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. Technically it matters because there are certain things where you can like use a Death Touch creature to ping others, and that's not combat damage. That does not work with Stinkweed Imp, but it's essentially effective. It's mostly the same, but it does pop up. Okay, keep that in mind. But Stinkweed Imp, the amount of games that I have stalled long enough with Stinkweed Imp, just playing him, opponents terrified to attack into, they don't lose their commander, and I've stalled games long enough with just this dumb little gargoyle to the point where now I can win the game whole-handedly. I lose track of how many games I've done that. Like, Stinkweed Imp can just stall games because you play him, you block an opponent's creature, they trade, you dredge him back to your hand, you fuel your graveyard, you replay him. Like, it's a constant removal spell and a constant pain in the butt. It's constantly removing the best creature that your opponent is attacking with while fueling your graveyard. And it's really annoying for people to answer. They really do need to exile it. Golgari Grave Troll is dredge 6, so you do dredge 1 more, which is very relevant. However, he's just a big dumb fatty. You play him, he gets a bunch of counters on him depending on how many creatures you have in your graveyard. I think the defensiveness of Stinkweed Imp actually ends up working better, in my opinion, but that's Stinkweed Imp, the Golgari Grave Troll versus Stinkweed Imp discussion in Commander. So Buried Alive just gets, it's a toolbox card. You get whatever you need, man. You could get the amount of times if I have Animate Dead in hand or Victimize or some sort of, reanimation spell, I can get Protean Hulk. That's a common one. Like, I'm either going for some sort of combination of Scavenge targets, Protean Hulk, Torps Jack Menace, Brawn we talked about. Like, there's just so many options there. Abhorrent Overlord if I need a bunch of tokens or sacrificial targets for whatever reason, for cutthroats, or if Lifeline's on the battlefield, things like that. Buried Alive is your premium graveyard fueling card. Next up, beautiful Judge foil Entomb. Entomb, I can't believe I'm still new to the commander bracket system. I've been playing Magic for a very, very long time, but I've been coming back over the past 1.5 years, and I'm not super familiar. I'm not up to date on brackets yet, and brackets is a hard thing to wrap my boomer brain around, because back in the day it was just kind of like everybody just played and tried their best, and well, not really each other, but like sucked it up, and like if you were playing a low powered deck, you just kind of knew you were gonna get your shit pushed in, and that was kind of the. Don't get me wrong. It's better to have brackets. It's better to have people understanding power levels to have better quality games. I'm not anti-brackets. What I am shocked by, there's a lot to improve with them. I can't believe Entomb is not on the game changer list. Like, that to me is crazy. I understand like the argument of like, oh yeah, well, you've got a combo with something else, you have to have an anime, blah blah blah. Yeah, but it starts the chain, and unless they're exiling your graveyard, like, you're gonna be able to go back to that graveyard target now for the rest of the game. There's a reason why this card was recently banned in Legacy. Like this card is uniquely powerful. It does things at a unique rate. 1 mana at instant speed to search your library for a card and put it into your graveyard. You could grab a creature card. You could grab, you know, once again, you could do all the things we just talked about. Grabbing dredge targets, grabbing reanimate targets, grabbing your dreadnoughts. I can grab dread return if I need to. For yeah, I mean, I can grab a reanimation spell. I can entomb dread return, cast it for its flashback of sacrificing 3 creatures, and now I've you know, tutored a reanimation spell to my graveyard if my graveyard is already full of creatures that I have. I need like some sort of other enabler. This card just does special things that no other card can do. Entomb is really crazy. Also, by the way, I should probably say, this deck actually only plays 1 game changer in natural order. If you cut natural order, this deck is technically a bracket 1 deck, which is like laughable to me, because I think if you took this against any, I think you would just shit stop. I think you would bully people. I think this deck would be so mean to play against other bracket 1 players. So you probably should just lean into bracket 3 and put a few other game changers in the list. Not that this deck is, you know, amazingly powerful. I think you would get shit stomped by any CDH deck, of course. Like, you know, I'm not crazy, right? But I do think this deck is, I really believe in this deck. Anyways, next up, Satyr, even though it looks like a lot of like little dirtly guys, like Satyr Wayfinder, right? Like, these are just really simple guys to get on the board on turn 2. They represent a regeneration for Varolz while also filling your graveyard. Satyr Wayfinder, 100 green to reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You put a land into your hand and put them in your graveyard. And this is actually really important, because the greediest thing I do in this deck is I only play 34 lands. I mean, we'll get to the land base here at a certain point. My land base is very chill, very casual, very budget. Only a few cards really talk about. I always say I don't play even fetch lands. I usually don't play in Commander. If I have some extras sitting around, which I sometimes do, sure, but I keep my fetches, my duels, my, you know, whatever lands, whatever expensive lands. Ancient Tombs are in Vintage. Like, I like to keep my money for lands in Legacy, Vintage, Eternal formats like that, like expensive ones, right? Because Magic's expensive. I don't need to be spending any more. For me, Commander is the take or break format. It's the casual format. I understand if you only played Commander, I get it, but for the Commander was invented to be played in between rounds of more competitive 60 card Magic. So for me, Commander's always been that. Commander's always been the you know, after the tournament is over, after draft is over, after, you know, the whatever, the Grand Prix, whatever, some big tournament is over, you just go and you play some Commander, you hang out, you have fun, you kind of just let your brain relax a little bit. Anyways, next up, similar card to Satyr Wayfinder, Glowspore Shaman, 1 black and 1 green for an Elf Shaman. When it enters, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, and you put a land card from them on top of your library. So not as good as Satyr Wayfinder, unfortunately. I could definitely see this. This card has been cut, I think, and re-added a few times. I could see that getting cut more in the future. There are definitely a few options here, but the fact that it leaves behind a body is like, I don't want to just play sorceries like Mulch, you know? Mulch would do a similar thing, but mill 4 cards, but this leaving behind a creature is just crucial. This leaving behind a creature is just absolutely monumentally crucial. There is that 1 mana black creature that like mills 2 when it enters and mills 2 when it dies. I just don't have a copy of that for some reason. I need to get that creature, so remind me, you know, leave a comment reminding me the name of that creature, and I need to go buy one on TCG Player. I'll probably, like, hopefully a foil one or like a nice copy. Tell me, I'll try to order a copy. Thank you for the reminder, chat. Anyways, next up, Nyx Weaver, 1 a black and a green This is a very old school kind of graveyard card that has fallen off a bit, but I still like it. It could be considered to be cut. It's a pretty slow card. It's 3 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, you mill 2. So you're milling 2 every single turn, and then it also is an E-Witness effect, which is nice. I think this card just barely makes the cut in Varolz. It mills you gradually, as well as, you know, you can exile it for 3, return to creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's recursion. It mills gradually, and it is a sacrifice target for Varolz. That is very important. I think if it wasn't also that, I would not recommend playing Nyx Weaver in most modern day graveyard decks. I think 2 cards a turn is just too slow, even with the recursion effect. I don't know if it's enough, but I could be convinced, because I love the card. It's a classic card. Next up, Fauna Shaman. This card is a powerhouse in this deck. This is, I mean, I think a must, honestly. Even though you can play these and sacrifice them to themselves to get them in the graveyard, you could also just use Fauna Shaman to discard them, grab the next Scavenge target, and kind of continue this deck more than anything wants that chain. Obviously, if you have Survival of the Fittest, more power to you. I do not own a copy of that card. That would be sick in this deck. Really sick, actually, like really gross in this deck. But Fauna Shaman being able to tap and discard a creature card and then tutor for another creature put into your hand is super, super, super good. It's also a Varolz. It's a Varolz regeneration target. It is enabling. It's graveyard fueling. This card, you can use it to reanimate. This is one of the best cards in the deck, probably, for sure. A very, very, very good card. Grapple with the Past, similar to the other things, but only is instant versus being a creature, which is important, you know. You mill the top 3, and you put a creature card or land card from your graveyard to your hand. This is why I play this, and I don't just play like another creature that mills a few. This grabbing any creature or land from my graveyard, and not just, you know, what it milled, is really important. Grapple the Past is a really, really good card. I think a lot of people know that, to be fair. Grapple the Past is fantastic graveyard fuel and everything. Gerard's Order. This card is way too slow for almost every graveyard deck in modern day. That's funny, like Varolz plays a lot of these cards that like just barely still make the cut. They used to be really good. This card used to be really good, and maybe it still is. I don't see a whole lot of it, though, to be fair. It's 4 mana, man. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them, put 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard. I still think this card is really fun. It's really solid. I think it's good on. Now that I'm looking, I think it's honestly fine / good. I like it. I like tutors a fair bit, especially like fair and slower tutors. I would play Gerard's Order in 2026 in most decks. You know what? Fuck it. But this card is really, really good in Varolz, because let's say, once again, even if you want to tutor for 2 creature cards and you prefer them both to be in the graveyard, you could just tutor for Brawn, keep it in the graveyard, and then tutor for Dreadnought off this 1 card, play the Dreadnought, kill itself. You know, like, that's the fact that almost all of these can be played and then just they die to themselves is just, once again, so important to fuel in your graveyard. There's so many strategies like this have that problem of, if you draw the cards, now you have to find a way to like get around that. And we even have a few ways in the deck, but we don't really need it as much as other decks with similar strategies or similar problems that arise like that. All right, I'm going to start moving things out of the way as well as we cover them. So we have covered our Scavenge targets. I'm going to move that over to the side. We have covered our graveyard fuel. I'm going to move that over to the side to show you guys a visualization of how much we have left to cover. All right, I think next up we go ahead and cover enablers for Varolz, and then after that we will cover Voltron abusers and how we can actually kill people with our Varolz damage. Now, first things first, we talked about it and mentioned it a lot. Corpse Jack Menace. I do think that this is the single most important creature in the deck after the enablers. This being able to double all of your enablers. It's not, you know, hardened scales. It's not add 1. It also being able to be a regenerate bubble for Varolz. It being a 4-mana 4/4 is just totally valid. A lot of you guys probably know Corpse Jack if you play counter strategies. Once again, this is not a counter strategy deck for the most part, but you just want it on 1 creature. It's like a single target counter strategy, which is not something you see a whole lot. If 1 or more +1 encounters would be placed onto a creature, you place twice that many instead. It's Corpse Jack Menace. It's crucial to the strategy, crucial to the deck. I'm not going to spend too much extra time on it. Next up, Smothering Abomination. People sleep on this. This card is one of the most underrated cards in Commander, I would almost say. That's a bold claim, but let me try to convince you. It is 4 mana for a 4/3 with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. Now, the downside is at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sack a creature, even if you don't want to. That is something you have to learn to play around. Once again, having these little dirtily guys is so important in this deck. But it's whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. any creature, even tokens. This card plus Abhorrent Overlord is pretty much game over. This card plus random Eldrazi Scions. If I sack the Scion from Catacomb Sifter, you know, that's going to get me so far ahead. This card is just insane. Incremental value. This card plus Endrixair. Let's cover Endrixair because it's relevant here. Also, this having flying is relevant. Sometimes a lot of the creatures that actually have flying in this deck, there have been games where I've won the game by putting 20 counters on a flying creature that has evasion and killing my opponent that way. Sometimes if I just can't get through with Varolz, I can't get Brawn in the graveyard, Brawn's been exiled, or I can't find some way to push Varolz through, I can't find my rogue passage, my escape tunnel, whatever it may be. Sometimes you do put your counters on a big threat. I have killed someone with Putrid Imp before. It has happened. That was one of my favorite ways to end a game, honestly. I did about 28 damage or so with Putrid Imp. That was a fantastic game. Anyways, Endrixair. Now, Endrixair combos with Smothering Abomination absolutely beautifully. Let's talk about it. And this is a very fun card. This is a card that I wouldn't recommend most people play, but damn, I don't know. This card, I also have a love for this card because one of the most talented limited players, one of the most talented drafters, Mike, if you ever watch this, I'm talking about you, man, really inspired me, really encouraged me to be a better Magic player, and he loved this card. I think he used to play it as a commander back in the day, and I think I don't think I opened a pack of this. I couldn't afford this back in the day, but someone opened a pack of this or had this like foil Endrixair. It was like $1. It was a very cheap card. It's still a pretty cheap card. I think it's like $3 or $4, I believe. 5 mana for a 2/2 creature. Okay, the effect better go crazy. It is a legendary as well. Whenever you cast a creature, put X 1/1 black Thrall creature tokens onto the battlefield where X is that spell's CMC. So if you play Endrixair and then you cast Abomination, you get 4 1/1s as well. If you cast Endrixair and you cast Visionary, you get 2 1/1s as well. Like that just gets out of control. You can spread wide really quickly. You get so many sack targets for Varolz. There's so much synergy here. But if you control 7 or more Thralls, you sacrifice Endrixair. Well, what you do is you sacrifice the Thralls before. So let's say, as long as you're not playing like a 7 mana spell, a 7 mana creature, right? If you play Endrixair, you play a 2-drop, you get some Thralls, you sacrifice them to get synergy, you sacrifice them to your Phyrexian Altar, you sacrifice them to your Varolz if you have to, and ping your opponents. A lot of times, ending the game with Lifeline is using Endrixair to, you can create infinite Thralls, essentially. You just can't have more than 7 at a time. Infinite Thralls if you keep sacrificing them. So being able to play Endrixair with a sack outlet in the command zone is really, really disgusting. And whenever you're sacrificing those with Abomination, you're drawing a card. So you just go infinite. Like, not actually infinite. A lot of this deck is, there's no 2-card infinite combos. There are no ways to go actually infinite in this deck, but there are so many ways to go what is effectively infinite, or to garner so much value your opponents will be like, what the fuck, that looks infinite, god damn it. Anyways, but it's not. Anyways, Grim Haruspex, but it's also very fair and very interactable. If your opponents just play some interaction, not enough commander players play interaction. We'll get to my interaction here in a bit. Grim Haruspex, I love this card. I think this card is, once again, underplayed, similar to Abomination, underplayed. Now, this does have the stipulation of, it's a 3-mana 3/2, and it does have the stipulation of whenever a non-token creature you control dies, draw a card, which is very fine in this deck. Most of our creatures are non-token. This is very, very fine. Very, very, not even far. This is amazing in this deck. That totally works. You don't get the Endrixair synergy, but honestly, this is if I were to cut a card, it probably, Endrixair might be, I'm never cutting it personally, but if I were to recommend you guys to cut a card, Endrixair might be like, it's top 10. It's definitely top 10, probably top 5 to cut, but it's so fun. So fuck cutting fun cards. Grim Haruspex, great card, great value. Sacrificing, you know, your Elvish, playing Elvish Visionary, drawing a card, second to Varolz to keep it alive against a kill spell, and then drawing 2 cards when sacking is, or the extra card is so good. Drawing 2 cards off 1/2/2, or 1/2 mana card, so good. I keep saying also, sorry, Phyrexian Altar. I'm sorry, I'm used to pre-modern deck list. Ashnod's Altar. If I've said Phyrexian Altar so far, I've meant Ashnod's Altar. I don't know why I've forgotten. I've not played this deck enough recently. I've forgotten the name of this card. My apologies. Ashnod's Altar. That's the really important one in Commander. Phyrexian's fine, but like, that's kind of a meme, right? It's mostly pre-modern Phyrexian Devour combo, just playing this. So I have Phyrexian Devour on the mind, pre-modern on the mind. Ashnod, I'm doing a lot of research for that. So Ashnod's Altar. Ashnod's Altar is just, it's Ashnod's Altar. Speaking of cards that should be on the Game Changers list, oh my god. Ashnod's Altar isn't on the Game Changers list? To my knowledge, what are we doing? This card is insane. 3 mana for an artifact, sack a creature, add 2 colorless. This is so disgustingly abusable with Hendrix Air. So disgustingly abusable with so much of this deck. So disgustingly abusable. Old Stick Fingers, one of the newest additions to this deck that I have not played with the most, and I'm not totally sure how I feel about it, but it's interesting. X, a black and a green for a legendary horror. When you cast this spell, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards. And then you put all creature cards reveal this way into your graveyard. What I really like about this is that it's a way to specifically put creatures into the graveyard. And that's what you want with Varolz. With Varolz, you want those scavenge targets, right? So if you cast this for 4, I feel like I would love to break down the math, actually. I just started using Moxfield. This is a terrible sentence. So I've used Untapped for the past, like, or Tapped Out. I used Tapped Out. Untapped is a different, like, Magic thing way back in the 10 years ago, but I've used Tapped Out as my deck builder for the past 10-15 years, and I'm finally trying to stop being a stubborn, stingy 28-year-old boomer, and I'm finally switching to Moxfield. I'm making the change, and I would love to check that actually right now to see how many creatures I play and run some math and see what are the odds, like what do I need to cast Stick Fingers for to get potentially at least one scavenge target into the graveyard. Okay, there are 34 creatures in the deck, 35 if you count Varolz, but that is a lot of targets for Old Stick Fingers to sift through. So honestly, I mean, this is a great example of something that where I might want to do a little bit more thinking, a little bit more reflecting, and checking more data. This is why data is so important. This is why using Moxfield is so important, and switching to it for a player like myself who has the experience, has the game knowledge, but didn't have this exact precise levels of data. You know, we'd always sort by curve, we would sort by colors, we do all the basic stuff 10 years ago, but we get so much more information with all the new data available, which is just beautiful. So this is a good one to reflect on. Should I play? Honestly, a great one for community feedback. Do you guys think that Old Stick Fingers should be played in this deck? Do you think that him getting things like Brawn, Abhorrent Overlord, a lot of the other Angel of Suffering, like him getting all of the reanimation targets, is it enough in this deck? I also do like him just as a mana sink if I happen to end up with a ton of mana, which doesn't happen a whole lot in this deck. This deck is pretty tight, I would say, on its curve, but if for some reason I end up with a bunch of mana, it's a way for me to just dump into it and come back in a late game in that certain way. So, and really get all those targets that I was missing if the game goes super long. So I'm open to discussion. It's something I'll have to definitely think on a lot. And once again, this deck list should be linked in the description if you want to check out that Moxfield. I'm actually doing a video showing myself uploading all of my physical decks that I've had for, you know, a decade, right, onto Moxfield, and showing people that process, what it looks like, and really like showing the first perception of Moxfield. I'm not sponsored, obviously, just a fantastic website. I think it's really cool to show the old head Magic player perspective, or not even quite, no, I'm like the middle ground, I guess, the middle old head, and how much it changes, how much you learn, like how much it teaches you, the data teaches you, the extra information is so important, and how you can always still tweak and adjust and get better and better and better, and how Moxfield helps you do that. Anyways, let's continue on though. We were looking over our enablers, is what I would call this stack. Old Stick Fingers. Next up, Liliana, Heretic of the Heretic Healer, I believe, the flip Planeswalker from Origin. This is a terrible card to have in Chinese, but you know what? It is in Chinese. I opened it from a pack. I love Origins, one of my favorite sets of all time. When it enters, it's a 3 mana 2/3, and then when it enters, I believe you create a 2/2 zombie, and then when a creature of yours dies, you flip it. And here, for simplicity's sake, here are the translations. And I actually was slightly wrong, so apologies. Liliana, Heretic Healer, you only create the zombie when she flips. That is the one thing that I got wrong. She has lifelink, she's a 2/3 lifelink. Now, on her flip side, you can +2 her. Each player discards a card, or her powerful thing, the minus X, return target non-legendary creature with CMC X or less from your graveyard to your battlefield. And then her emblem, you get an emblem with whenever a creature card dies, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. That is Lifeline. Well, I guess one way Lifeline. That is Lifeline on an emblem, which is why I started playing this card, because I just love Lifeline effects so freaking much. Lifeline, the Lifeline effect, plus it's a nice 3 mana creature that can create an extra creature, you know, which is pretty easy to do in this deck. You can sacrifice, worst case scenario, you can sacrifice her to Varolz if you really need to. A little bit of incidental life gain. This card has a lot of things that this deck really needs. Now, Now, apologies for the incorrect, you know, thing. I do think with Commander, I will speak on, I love foreign cards, I will speak on foreign cards. With Commander, I'm going to be honest, there are sometimes foreign cards in my deck that I don't always know word for word. I usually know pretty decently how they work, but I don't always know word for word. Thankfully, with Commander, you can usually just Google it. If I were playing a foreign card in Legacy or Vintage and I did not know what it did word for word, that would be a problem. And that would probably be unacceptable in my opinion. You have to know your foreign cards for tournaments, and I'm pretty good at that. I've played a lot of foreign cards in Legacy in the past for budget reasons. Growing up, you know, not having a lot, we did what we could, so it was easier for me to use my memory and my knowledge to learn foreign cards and afford cards. However, feel free to just also, I guess, feel free to disagree in the comments respectfully. I don't mind if someone has a foreign card and I'm going to Google it at the table. I have no problem with it. I opened this card. I love buying foreign cards. I love opening foreign packs. They're cheaper. They're budget. I think they look beautiful. Getting foils especially are super sick and super cool. Have different experiences. I love it. I respect it. Not everybody loves that, but you know, it's a personal preference sort of thing. Next up, our final enabler is Skull Clamp. What needs to be said about Skull Clamp? Skull Clamp is really good when you have a bunch of 1/1s like Endrixair, like you know, the Elvish Visionary we've called back to so many times, the Putrid Imp, the Cutthroat, the Scion, whatever it may be. Skull Clamp is super good if you have 1/1s. It's a 1-mana equipment if you happen to not know where you can equip it for 1, and the creature gets +1, -1, and when it dies, you draw 2 cards, specifically put into a graveyard, but it's usually death. This is just you're just drawing. This card's insane. One of the most powerful cards in the deck. Skull Clamp is Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp's insane. If you're not playing Skull Clamp in a deck with a Sacrifice Outlet, you know, the Sacrifice Outlet in the Commander changes so many things. Even if you're equipping that to Brawn or equipping it to Protean Hulk, right? You can then sack it to Varolz, get all that value, and draw the 2 cards, or even dredge back your Stinkweed Imp. You could put it on your Stinkweed Imp and then block with something, kill a creature, and then draw 2 cards. It's just... Skull Clamp is Skull Clamp, and everybody knows how damn good that card is. Let's next cover the small stack of, this is not that many, the small stack of Voltron cards, and this could get upgraded at some point. I think this is like a budget, like chill option, but we'll have to see. Brawn is probably the most important one to talk about here. 3 and a green for a creature, the 3/3, as long as it is in your graveyard and you control a forest, creatures you control have trample. This is my main trample enabler in the deck, and because I can get it with things like Entomb, things like Buried Alive, it is very important. Brawn is crucial to giving Varolz reach and giving him that unblockability-esque behavior. It's really, you can't just have you can't have a 26/26 creature in Commander and win the game. That is not enough. You have to have, it's so crucial, you have to have some element of unblockability, and there's a few ways we do that. So we have the Brawn with trample, some sort of evasion. We have Infect, which Infect is almost like evasion in a weird way, where like you need less power to end the game. Normally you would need 21 commander damage. With Infect you only need 10. I know a lot of people don't like Infect in Commander. I think if you play it tastefully, I think it's fine. I think things like Phyresis, I think things like Tainted Strike are fine in the right, you know, decks. If you're playing Infect in like an already really busted, really strong, really annoying Commander deck, okay, it's a lot less fun, you know, but I think in a deck like Varolz, I think it brings it up to speed and kind of makes it fair, even though I think it is powerful. That one could be argued. I have no restraints playing Infect in T-Lord. That guy deserves it. Varolz might be the one where I could be open to being convinced out of it. But you know what? I love my Infect, okay? So what? It's an enchantment aura as well. Like, it's, you know, you see it coming, you can respond to it, you can destroy it. When he dies, it falls off. Like, there's just so much there. Next up, Sword of Vengeance. 3, equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has First Strike, Trample, Vigilance, and Haste. This is one of the few haste enablers in the deck. This card... it's an expensive card, 3 mana to play and 3 mana to equip, but it just gives Varolz absolutely everything that it needs, especially that Vigilance. The Vigilance is nice sometimes. It's pretty rare, but there are certain games where I know that I can't just be super aggressive and attack without getting clapped back and killed, and being able to attack with a 26/26 Varolz and then also have him as a blocker makes a difference sometimes. Swiftfoot Boots, pretty basic, pretty simple. You don't want to play Greaves in this deck. You could. Greaves is scary in this deck because you have to scavenge onto Varolz, right? And if it has Shroud, you can't do that. On top of, I think you just don't play Greaves in this deck, actually. I think Greaves is actually bad. It's one of the few decks where, like, you want Boots Swiftfoot boots specifically over Lightning Greaves. You can't target Varolz. If you want to target Varolz with a Scavenge, you have to move the Lightning Greaves over to like your, let's say your Visionary on the battlefield, and that opens up Varolz for more interaction where you could just have boots. I think boots, I know it's 0 CMC to equip for Greaves, which is really relevant, but like I think boots is better for Varolz specifically, but that once again could be argued. Key to the City, talk about a niche card that just perfectly fits into this deck. I love Key to the City in Varolz specifically. You probably don't, that's a weird card. 2 mana, for an artifact, you tap it and discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn, just pure unblockability. And then whenever it becomes untapped, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card. This is some incremental card draw if you need it. This is discard fodder. You can, like, the amount of times I have played this, discarded the Phyrexian Dreadnought, the Death Shadow, what's it called, Stinkweed Imp. Like, I added this card to the deck because I realized I wanted one more discard enabler. I wanted one more card where if I got cards in my hand that I wanted in the graveyard, like Protean, I've discarded Protean Hulk and then reanimated it multiple times. Like, that happens all the time. I wanted one more discard outlet in this deck, and this was the perfect discard outlet for Varolz, because not only did it allow me to discard cards, but it also made Varolz unblockable, which is something I desperately needed a little bit more of. And I could draw cards. This card is just, this card is the most underrated perfect card for Varolz in my opinion. All right, that is our Voltron enablers, our Voltron killers, let's call them. Next up, what do we want to cover? Let's go ahead and cover, we're sticking to like centering around Varolz. Since we're talking about Varolz, let's talk about these. It's probably the least important thing to Varolz, but it's still relevant. We could just cover Ramp really quick as well. It's really fast. Soul Ring, it's powerful. It goes in almost any deck. This is probably one of the weaker decks that it's in, hilariously, but it's still really, really good. Songs of the Damned, 1 black mana for an instance. Add 1 black mana to your mana pool for each creature card in your graveyard. It's about also common with Stick Fingers, This card's fantastic. This card is really good in graveyard decks. I think this card is super underplayed. Play more Song of the Damned. It is very, very good. I will say, I don't have a Dark Ritual in this deck, and it probably should have one. Now that, once again, this is why I like doing these deck techs, because it helps me think about things in a different way. When I'm explaining it to you guys, it really does help me see new angles. Why do I not have a Dark Ritual in this deck? I probably should have one. It's just that good, especially like with a deck like this where it is very bursty in a lot of ways. I'll have to think about it. I might just want more. I want more mana dorks first, but we'll play that by ear in the future. We have a lot of things to switch in and out. Next up, Elvish. So these are the cards. These are all cards that they're not enablers necessarily. These are value getters, and these are cards you want to play before Varolz. These are cards you want to usually play before Varolz and have on the battlefield to gain incremental value. These are also our lifeline targets where we can just kind of win the game off of dumb little dirty guys. These are our aristocrat style strategy threats. First things first, you have Elvish Visionary. Enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Really simple. It leaves behind a body. You can sack to Varolz. I think this card is just, I love Visionary, man. It's a fantastic, good value card. Next up, Putrid Imp. I have actually cut Putrid Imp once. I think I've cut Putrid Imp 2 or 3 times, and every time I add it back because I miss it and I realize how damn good it is and how versatile it is. Putrid Imp is 1 black mana for a 1/1. Discard a card from your hand. You can do that infinite number of times. It gains flying until end of turn, and then it gets +1/+1 and can't block. This looks on the surface like the weakest card in the deck, but being able to discard cards from your hand infinitely is so crucial. And this being a one drop is so important. Being able to discard cards from your hand infinitely is so important. This is something that this deck really needs one of. Putrid Imp allows you to do gross combos that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. It allows you to discard, anything before your command to the Dread Horde. It allows you to discard, once again, all of your Scavenge targets in one go. There are times where I have that, multiple things. You can discard your Dread Return, which is kind of difficult. Discard your Dread Return if you have creatures but no mana or whatever. Putrid Imp is a very weird, very niche, very versatile card. Nothing really does what he does in the exact way that he does. There are things that are close, but I've tried to replace him. I've tried to remove him. I always come back to Putrid Imp. Next up, Zulaport Cutthroat. I mean, it's one of the best. I think it's probably the best Blood Artist style effect. 1 in a black. When Cutthroat or another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. I do not play Viscerus here in this deck because Varolz is the sack outlet. I kind of don't need it, you know? Sakura Tribelder, 1 in a green, you know, it's one of my few ramp spells. You want ramp spells in Varolz that are also creatures. You know, I can sack this. There are times where I sack this to Varolz to regenerate as opposed to, you know, ramping. But this with Lifeline, you're also ramping a land at the end of each turn for the rest of the game. Like that's 4 times a cycle. This card, like I think this card, there are certain things with Lifeline. There are certain cards that I include that may not be the best on the surface that with Lifeline just win the game. So I like to have things like this because I will get every land in my deck on the battlefield very, very quickly with this plus Lifeline. All right, versus just something like a Wood Elves or some other, you know, some other creature that just ramps in a more generally efficient way. I really like Tribelder in this deck specifically. That's sack outlet, right? Next up, Catacomb Sifter, and criminally underrated card in Commander. 3 mana, I love this set, BFZ. 3 mana, 1 and Golgari. For a 2/3 creature, when it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 Scion that you can sacrifice to add a mana, a little bit of ramp, honestly, which does matter in this deck. And then, whenever another creature you control dies, you scry 1. That constant scrying is extremely relevant, extremely relevant. That also, I think, if I did ever want to upgrade the land package, which I don't normally do for these decks, a Surveil lands would go crazy in this deck. Fetch plus Surveil would be really nice. I was just thinking about that with the Scry. Reminded me of Surveil and that thought process and that chain and yada yada yada. Next up, Grist the Hunger Tide. 1 a black and a green for a planeswalker that is also a 1/1 insect. If it's not on the battlefield. The nice thing about Grist is that you can play him, create a 1/1 as a sack target for Varolz or a bunch of your other strategies. You create an insect. I don't know why that's not. The camera hates for Grist. Anyways, you create a 1/1, which enables Grist. It enables Victimize. It enables a lot of your strategies. It enables Skull Clamp every single turn. It enables Varolz. It enables a lot of things. Or you can sacrifice a creature and destroy a creature of Planeswalker. Grist is removal. Also, it's not even -3, it's -2. Grist is removal. It is infinite 1/1s if it obviously sticks to, which most Planeswalkers don't. And then you can also, is -5 as each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. I have never utilized his ult. I'm always using Grist to usually kill a creature and then if I can pay 3 mana, kill a creature, and then potentially make more 1/1s in the future. That is what Grist is there to do. That's his job, and he does it very, very well. Rubenap Excavator. I am probably too high up on this card, and this card also is maybe a remnant of this deck used to contain a lot of graveyard land strategies. This deck used to be this deck contained too many archetypes. It used to be Varolz, Voltron, Reanimation, Aristocrats, and Graveyard Lands, and it was just too many things happening. I used to play Crucible of Worlds. It was too much at once, and I realized I wanted to just make a different commander deck for Commander Lands, which I have now done with Glarb, which I don't really play because that deck has a 100% win rate and my turns take like 2 hours per turn. I can do a deck tech on that. That's the best deck I've ever built is my Glarb Lands deck, and we can talk about that at some point. Why it's very, very strong, but I can't play it anywhere because it's just unfun. But Rubenap Excavator could definitely get cut for an Elvish Mystic or some sort of Birds of Paradise. Like that's honestly like a great example, but I still love this card. I often, to be fair, I almost always get this card with Woodland Bellower, which is over here, more foreign cards. Woodland Bellower, Woodland Bellower is a 6 mana, 6/5 creature. When it enters the battlefield, you search your library for a non-legendary green creature, CMC 3 or less, and put it on the battlefield with Woodland Bellower. And grabbing this with that and being able to get my lands, like this deck struggles with mana a little bit, but it also needs to do that because it's so tight. And I want it to stay that way. I don't want to just add more lands. It does have 36 total lands. I said 34 earlier. It's 34 plus 2 MDFC. So 36 if you count MDFC, which I usually do. So apologies, but Excavator is really nice to get back all my dumb little, even though I don't play like Verdant Catacombs, I do play Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, the budget fetches, which, or just I just mill a bunch of lands into my graveyard constantly. Like this card, I think it's almost like ramp or like consistency in my land drops. I really do like it even in dumb little decks like this. Spore Frog just allows you to do stupid stuff. Spore Frog is solid early. It allows you to stop shenanigans. It allows you to stop yourself from dying. It allows you to sacrifice 2 Varolz for synergies. And with Lifeline, no one can ever do combat damage to you ever again. It's really stupid. Yeah, Spore Fog with Lifeline is one of the most insane. It's really dumb. At the beginning of every end step, you get it back. Okay, that sounds really balanced. Same with, like, that's why Treasure Keeper, like, Treasure Keeper also probably could get cut, but I like it to Lifeline with Lifeline. It's a 4-mana 3/3. When it dies, you reveal the top cards of your library until you reveal a non-land card with CMC 3 or less, and you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. And you put the rest of the cards in the bottom of your library. This card with Lifeline is just like infinite value. Just once again, Lifeline, if it resolves and you have if you have 2 creatures on the battlefield, if you have like Varolz plus Visionary, Varolz plus Treasure Keeper, Varolz plus the sack outlet plus 1 other creature, you usually just win the game. It's just that. It's that gross, and it's on the spot unless they remove the Lifeline, of course. It's so gross. But that is our final creature that you want to play before Varolz type enabler that enables general value as opposed to enabling Varolz to kill people. All right, next up, let's go ahead and cover. This is pretty quick. These are kind of general. These are the 3 cards that I couldn't really fit into a different category. They're kind of just general value. That is it. Skullwinder, it's kind of like the fun political Eternal Witness, if you don't know it. What's the one guy from oh my god, I'm such a bad. The one guy from the Goldfish, MTG Goldfish EDH podcast, I believe is it Richard? He's very high up on this card, and I didn't really get it for a bit, but honestly, the Death Touch, I've kind of been convinced by him, for better or for worse. I kind of respect it, you know. 3 mana for a 1/3 with Death Touch, enters the battlefield, you return trigger card from your graveyard to your hand, and then you choose an opponent who also does the same thing. I think the older I get in Commander, I mean, I've always kind of been like this, it's just not fun to see someone drought or flood in Commander. There's almost one person who has that happen every few games, you know, like it's just gonna happen in Magic. So if I can Skullwinder someone and help them out a bit, like I like doing that. I think it's a fun little dumb thing. You help someone get a land to get back into the game at all. You get your biggest threat. You get, you know, whatever removal spell you need. You can use as a, you know, you can use it with an opponent and say, oh, I'm gonna help you get back, you know, your Swords to Plowshares, but just don't use it on Varolz. You have to promise, right? And then if they break the promise, worst case scenario, they break the promise and it's funny and you lose the game, but that's worth it because it's hilarious. Or they keep the promise and you win the game. So it's a win-win. That's a win-win in my book. The Commander player either lies and that's hilarious, or they listen to you and you win. There you go. Easy peasy. Okay, next up. Diabolic Tutor. I like Diabolic Tutor. It reminds me of old Magic, reminds me of casual Magic. I think this card could get cut. I think it's fun in Varolz. I think sometimes searching for that, I'm often searching for Phryresis, I'm gonna be honest, and like getting Infect to kill my opponent in a way that I wouldn't otherwise be able to, allows me to do things I otherwise wouldn't be able to. Next up, Notch's Revival. Just a fantastic card that goes in every graveyard deck. Be able to pay 0 mana, be able to pay 2 life to put target card from a graveyard onto the top of its owner's library. I've used this to just get back my Evolving Wilds if I can't hit land drops, like getting back your fetch land, getting back whatever creature you may need, getting back your Animate Dead, your Reanimation spells, right? The fact that it's instant, you can do it at your opponent's end step and then move into your turn and draw that card and have it ready to go. That's our 3 to 4 like general value cards that just didn't really fit in a different category. Now, let's cover removal. Yeah, let's do removal. Fuck it. And then next up, all we have left is Haymakers, which these win the game, and then cheating spells and reanimation spells, which usually are used in combination with these. Not all the time, but often. Let's do removal. I play a lot of removal. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 removal spells, some of which are board wipes, a lot of which are single target. I do also, to be fair, like Boggart Trawler is in here. Is that really removal? It's interacting with players' graveyards. It's exile target players' graveyard. Dude, if you're playing Black and Commander, play a Boggart Trawler. Like at the minimum, play Boggart Trawler in end of Bojuka Bog, probably. At least like a bare minimum. As I'm presenting you this graveyard deck that really needs its graveyards, and if you nuke my graveyard, it's kind of annoying, but it's also not the end of the world. Like, this is a graveyard deck that can play with the graveyard or can play on board with Lifeline, which is why I like it so much. We talked about that a billion times, but play Graveyard Hate in your main. Bojuka Bog, Boggart Trawler, that's the bare minimum. If you can do more, awesome, but don't go, I mean, I don't know, go crazy. Fuck it, play like Ground Seal. I think it's Ground Seal. Dude, Graveyard Hate is good. Play it as a graveyard player. It's important, okay? Next up, Boggart Trawler barely counts, probably the weakest removal here, but it's also an MDFC, also it counts as a land, right? Assassin's Trophy. 1 black and a green for an instant to destroy target permanent an opponent controls. They may search their library for a basic land. This card is just so good, man. Being able to target, you know, Maze's Ith, or what's it? Not Maze's Ith. No, Maze's Ith, right? Yeah, Maze's Ith. I forget every card name whenever I click the record button. I swear. Being able to get rid of a Maze's Ith that's trying to stop your Varolz, being able to get rid of, you know, a Field of the Dead, being able to get rid of lands, being able to get rid of a Glacial Chasm. Oh my god, please play more single target permanent hate for Glacial Chasms. People do not respect, you know, it's okay to play single target land removal or permanent removal for, you gotta get rid of those. Exile that Glacial Chasm King. Anyways, card is so good. This card is just fantastic. Versatile removal at instant speed. It's so good. What needs to be said, right? Bridge Works Battle. I really like this card. I really like this. It's a fight spell. It gives your creature +2/+2, and then it fights a creature you don't control. Or it's an MDFC. Or it's a forest. It's a land, right? The fact you can play this untapped is super important, and the fact that, like, in Varolz, like, there are times where I give it +2/+2, fight a creature, and now because I fought that creature, I can swing in with no blocks and kill an opponent. I can kill a giant threat on the board, and then because of the +2/+2, get commander damage or get enough infect damage, or like sometimes it pushes me over the top or helps me end that game. Snuff Out, one of the best removal spells in Commander. It's 4 mana for an instant, or if you control a swamp, you may pay 4 life and destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. Also, I mean, this can't hit Varolz anyway because it's a black creature, but being able to stop regeneration is more relevant than people think, because I play multiple regenerate commanders. I play both. I am high up on getting rid of Rhystic Studies, Trouble in Pairs. I hate artifacts and enchantments, can be a pain in the butt, man. So because of that, I play both. Reclamation Sage and Caustic Caterpillar. I love Caustic Caterpillar. This card is underrated. Everybody just automatically plays Reclamation Sage. You don't always want Rex Sage. Sometimes you want Caustic Caterpillar. This deck is a great example. Caustic Caterpillar is actually better than Rex Sage in this deck, because if you don't know, it's Chinese, but it's really, you know, it's a simple card. 1 green mana for a 1/1. You may pay 1 and a green at any, you know, it doesn't tap, it's at any, you know, it's just activation, right? 1 and a green to sacrifice Caustic Caterpillar and destroy target artifact or enchantment. Okay, very, very simple card, right? It's still 3 mana total comparatively to Reclamation Sage, but it can be broken up. And this can be played on turn 1 and then be a sack outlet for Varolz on turn 3 if I need to regenerate it. So that is much better than a Rex Sage getting the ETB. I'm not doubling ETBs, right? Like, if you're doubling ETBs, you know, Rex Sage is better, right? But like, Rex Sage is also turned off by things like Torpor Orb or what's the Doorkeeper Thrall, right? Rex Sage or Dress Down, which is more prevalent, right? Reclamation Sage can be turned off by a lot of countering ETB. To be fair, Dress Down also gets Caterpillar, which is why Dress Down's so good. But at least you could, like, pop it in response, right? Like, Rex Sage gets turned off by so many things. And I think people, like, over auto include Rex Sage because of the Elf Shaman typing is nice and the 2/1 body is nice. But consider Caustic Caterpillar. This card is fantastic. It's also, it sacrifices, so it that synergizes with a lot of, like, Aristocrat, and, like, you know, if you want to be putting cards in the graveyard, like, that really matters. So removing artifacts and enchantments, that is still removal. It's not creature removal, but it's definitely, that is removal. You know, that's important removal and interaction. Next up, Murderous Cut. This card is the first card I featured in a video I started recording recently. I haven't not done it yet, but I started recording 121 underrated kill spells in Commander. That will be coming out soon. This card is the first card that I mentioned. If you watch this far in the video, congrats, you get a sneak peek. This card is I think, in my opinion, the best, most underrated kill spell in Commander. This is almost always, if you're playing this correctly in any relevant deck that should play it, which is a lot of decks, it is a 1 mana instant speed destroy target creature. That's what this should be almost every single time. I do not know why people do not play more Murderous Cut. This card is phenomenal. And then they printed a better Fleshback Marauder somewhat, you know, recently. To me, it's like 1 or 2 years ago, to be fair. It's like 2024. That's like 2 years. God damn it, I'm getting old. Time's passing too fast. Okay. Accursed Marauder. 1 in a black. When it enters, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. This is actually better than Fleshback Marauder in my deck. I don't play a lot of tokens. Tokens do pop up, to be fair, with Overlord and Endrixare, but, like, I don't play as many tokens as, like, tokens players or most people, right? The fact that this makes you sacrifice a non-token, the fact that I can just sacrifice this to itself, this is fantastic removal. I can sacrifice my Rex Sage after I use it, or sacrifice something else and keep this around as a body, or keep it around as a sack target to Varolz. I love Person Marauder. Now, this is a spicy card. I have only ever been able to use this card effectively, I think, in one game. I'm going to be honest. But this card is just so cool that I'll never remove it, okay? It's 1 black mana for an enchantment. You pay X to remove X +1/+1 counters among creatures you control. So this is like your defensive strategy. This is usually you can't win with Varolz, so you're pivoting to Lifeline is usually what this means. You're removing, or you just have plenty of counters on Varolz. That happens sometimes with Corpse Jack Menace, right? You can get like 30, 40 counters with just the 2 Scavenge targets and Corpse Jack Menace. So being able to remove 10 counters off of Varolz, leave him with 32 counters still, right? And then kill a 10/10 or, you know, the fact that it's so cheap, dude, the fact that it's repeatable for the rest of the game. 1 black mana, kill that creature, kill that if you have enough counters. This card is very special. It's very interesting, and I love it, man. Calling Ritual in a very streamlined, thin deck like this. There's a lot of things here. We don't mind killing our own things to mana ramp. I've absolutely, and to get value to trigger Lifeline like this. I love Calling Ritual. This card is super good. This card is one of the best, one of the only board wipes played in CEDH. 2, a black and a green for a sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with CMC 2 or less, and then you add a black and or green mana, or not and or add a black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. This is ramp. This is a board wipe. This card is really, really good. This gets rid of all the soul rings on the back. It gets rid of all so many mana rocks. The fact that people don't like playing 3 CMC mana rocks actually helps Calling Ritual. You know, they want to play those 2 ones, those 2 CMC. I love Calling Ritual. And then Rise of the Witch King, a newer card that I was unsure of. Once again, newer to me. It's Lord of the Rings set. But this card's really good. Every time I've played it, I've been very, very happy. I thought it was a little too slow, but it's very, very good. 2, a black and a green. Each player sacrifices a creature. If you use that creature this way, you reanimate a creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. This card's really good, man. It's 4 mana. Everybody sacks a creature, and then you reanimate a creature. Like, it's similar to Victimize in certain ways. This card could honestly be over here. Like it's a cheating creature into play, but also removal, which is just, I mean, that's. What do you want more in Commander? The fun cards that enable you, that also interact with your opponents and also keep them in check. That's what you want in Commander, right? That's Rise of the Witch King. So that is our removal covered. Next up, let's go ahead and jump into Haymakers or Reanimate and cheating spells. Let's do the cheating stuff first, and I'll show you what we're cheating. So what we're cheating with is Victimize, classic card, 2 and a black, choose 2 trigger creature cards in your graveyard. You sack 1 creature, you get to reanimate 2 creatures for 3 mana. This card is really good in this deck. It is so insane. I don't feel like I draw it a whole lot, sadly, is the only downside, I guess. I don't know why, but it's a fantastic card. Next up, Dread Return. Love this card. You don't often get to flash it back. I mean, I'd say half of games you're flashing it back, which is pretty solid. Be able to just cast it, 4 CMC, 4 CMC to reanimate a creature card from your graveyard, and then if it's in your graveyard, just being able to have a reanimation spell that you can use from the graveyard. If you've never even, most of the time you're not casting it, you are using the flashback and just like using cards in your graveyard to have activated effects. You know, that extra, it's like an extra, it's basically like having extra cards in your hand, which is what makes the graveyard zone so insane. 4 mana to reanimate, or flashback while it's in the graveyard. You can sack 3 creatures, sack your Satyr Wayfinder, you know, sack your Endrick Sair tokens, right? It's not 3 non-token. Sack your Endrick Sair tokens, reanimate a big threat. Dread Return is fantastic. I love this card. It's a crucial piece. Natural Order, if you happen to not know, it's one of the game changers. The only game changer in the deck. 2 and 2 green for a sorcery. Sacrifice a green creature, search your library for a green creature card, and put it onto the battlefield. This pretty much always grabs Protean Hulk. And I don't play any Protean Hulk packages that just end the game on the spot. I am the most fair Protean Hulk player you will run into. I play a very fair Protean Hulk, so just keep that in mind. Be nice to my Protean Hulk. Thank you so much. Anyways, next up, Eldritch Evolution. 3 mana. As an additional cast to it, you sack a creature. You search your library for a creature card with CMC X or less, plus 2 of the sacrificed creatures CMC. So, for example, let's say, Protean Hulk is 7 mana, right? If Protean Hulk is 7 mana, I can do a ton of things here. I could play my Woodland Bellower, right? Play my Woodland Bellower, get my Ruminap Excavator, get extra value, and then sack my Woodland Bellower to then grab Protean Hulk, or even fuck it, play Protean Hulk and sack Protean Hulk and grab Abhorrent Overlord or Angel of Suffering or whatever other like giant. I'm messing up, making everything so messy, but I think people know evolution. This card is really good, man. This card is really good. It's really powerful. It's a great cycling. It also gets a creature into the graveyard if you want to get it there, or you want to Eldritch Evolution and then animate dead the creature you just put there, right? Like that happens a fair bit. So really good cycling in that way. This deck is a weird, once again, this deck is a graveyard deck that also plays on the battlefield a ton. It's not just doing graveyard stuff all the time. It really operates both really well, in my opinion. It can just do one or the other. If you get your graveyard nuked in this deck, it is weirdly fine. You can like play through that with Lifeline. If you somehow, the main way this deck, which I've never seen this happen. The main way this deck loses, which I've never seen happen, is if Varolz gets entirely put into check. If they entirely check Varolz, you burn through all your Scavenge targets, they exile all of your Scavenge targets, he has no counters, he costs 7 mana, right? Like if they entirely remove Varolz from the equation and then they exile Lifeline, this deck is gonna have a very hard time winning. It may be able to just from attrition still, but it would be very difficult. Maybe, I guess, you have Liliana backup, you have like general value, you have other ways at that point, to be fair, but you would start winning the way a normal Magic deck would, unlike this deck being so weird, right? Let's talk about Lifeline in a quick second. I'm sure a lot of you guys have no idea what this card is, but it's also one of my favorite cards in all of Magic, and I think one of the most powerful, underrated cards in Magic. I have a whole video talking about this card. If you have not seen it, check it out. It should be linked in the description. If not, yell at me in the comments, call me stinky. Animate Dead. Do I need to explain Animate Dead? 1 in a black. It's an enchantment aura. You reanimate a creature card from your graveyard, you put it onto it, it gives it -1, -0. It's a 2 mana reanimation spell. It's just really powerful. It's Animate Dead. Okay, let's talk about Lifeline and hopefully not spend 50 minutes doing it. Lifeline is a 5 CMC artifact that says whenever a creature, anybody's creature, not just your own, it's a universal effect, which is what makes it balanced, whenever a creature goes to a graveyard and there was another creature in play, you bring that creature back to your battlefield at the end step. What that means is any sort of kill spells, spot removals, they just don't really work. They do work, but they come back at end step. And this card with Varolz, with the sack outlet, is where things get just disgustingly unfair. You have the obvious stuff where if you have your Woodland Bellowers, if you have your Demon, you're bringing these back every turn. That wins, I usually win the game with Lifeline via sacrificing Protean Hulk to Varolz. You get your Protean Hulk trigger. Protean Hulk comes back at the beginning of your end step. You do it again. You go to your next opponent's turn. You do it at the end of their end step. You do it at the end of the next opponent's end step. You do it at your buddy's end step. You can do this 4 times. Each end step, not just yours. This card is now the problem is if your opponent is playing aristocrat strategies or sacrifice strategies, that's where it becomes a little bit more difficult. But I do think that Varolz can utilize this better than most other strategies in that way. The only scary thing would be if someone had like an Ashnod's altar in like a dragon's deck. That would be or like certain things like that can get a little sketchy, but even that's why we have the removal. We have removal. Lifeline is so nuts with a sack outlet in the command zone is so crucial, because even if my board, let's say it's turn 5, right? Let's say it's turn 5 and I play even like Rex Sage, look at Rex Sage. Rex Sage coming back at the end of each end step, you get to kill an artifact or enchantment 4 times in a turn cycle. Skullwinder coming back every time. Spore Frog is a really good one. Catacomb Sifter, Sakura Tribald is really good. Zulaport Cutthroat is a key one. Elvish Visionary. Okay, let's do a very, very simple board, okay? This board is going to look incredibly innocuous. We can do different combinations of this. Let's say it's turn 5. Let's say turn 1 you went Spore Frog, turn 2 you went Zulaport Cutthroat, turn 3 you went Varolz, turn 4, fuck it, you passed turn for some reason. Turn 5, you play Lifeline. You now most likely win the game unless an opponent can remove Lifeline. And even then, they have to exile it, because and God forbid you have this as well. If you have this as well, even if they exile Lifeline, it's probably like you probably get too much value, because if they go to exile Lifeline, you can sacrifice your creatures in response and you'll still at least get one trigger. So like, let's say you play Lifeline, you go to attack with Varolz for 2 or some whatever dumb shit, right? Your opponent goes to exile Lifeline. You can then respond by sacrificing 4 Frog, draining, gaining your opponent, you know, for 1, sacrificing Visionary, each visually, excuse me, draining, gaining your opponent, sacrifice Cutthroat. So you've drained and gained each opponent for 3 life, and now you bring everything back at end step again. So you've gotten, like, you've paid 5 mana to drain and gain your opponent for effectively 6. You've drawn an extra card. You have a Spore if you want. You draw an extra card, you know, boom, you get, and whatever it may be, right? If Lifeline sticks around at all, the game is just over. If they exile it, it's really bad. You can get it back with all of your recursion, all your Nyx Weavers, your Skullwinders, your Noxious Revivals. Like, if they just destroy this in a graveyard deck, it is not nearly enough. It is not nearly enough. If they exile it, it's a little sad, but then you just scavenge rolls and kill hit whoever exiled your Lifeline, you target for the rest of the game and hit him for 40 damage. Hit him for 50 infect. Why not, right? Lifeline is just an insane card. I really cannot hype it up enough. I've done a lot of videos, I've yapped a lot about it. Lifeline is just uniquely powerful and uniquely fucking busted. Okay, let's move on to Haymakers. This is kind of fun, dude. Ending on Haymakers. So for Haymakers, we got your Protean Hulk, which is 7 mana for a 6. I love the retro frame foil. 7 mana for a 6/6 creature. When it dies, you search your library for any number of creatures with total CMC 6 or less. This can grab you, you know, that Elvish Visionary. This can grab you the Zulaport Cutthroats. If you have this plus Lifeline, the game is over. You grab all your threats, all your value, all your incremental damage. You just go crazy. Woodland Bellor, it grabs the green non-legendary CMC 3 or less creature. You grab your Tri-Belter. Often Ruminap Excavator is what I'm grabbing with that. Demon of the Dark Team. You just want big, dumb fellas to be able to reanimate at any point in the game. That's generally what I love budget reanimation targets. Your reanimation targets do not have to be expensive. They don't have to be these big flashy cards. A lot of these reanimation targets are very cheap. I think this is like a at least $3 or less card. I think Demon of Dark Schemes, 6 mana, probably even $1 or less. 6 mana for a mythic. Flying 5/5 creature. When it enters, all other creatures get -2/-2. I once won a game by reanimating this, wiping a board of, like, I think it was infinite. I think it was infinite tokens, -2/-2, and then I was able to reanimate a bunch of creatures because it also says whenever another creature dies, you get 1 energy. It is a little funny to play this in a non-energy deck, but I think it works, man. I think that, like, this card is just slept on. 6 mana for a 5/5 demon that somewhat board wipes, that gives you energy whenever a creature dies, that then you can then activate without tapping it. That's really important. Activate multiple times to pay 4 energy to reanimate creatures onto the battlefield. Tapped is important, but yeah, Demon of Dark Schemes is really, really solid. And this with Lifeline, right? Keep in mind, you're now getting energy every time you sack. You're getting this back. You're -2/-2 and everything. You're reanimating the rest of your deck onto the battlefield to then keep up with Lifeline. It's just, Lifeline is so fun and so good. Continuing on, Abhorrent Overlord, probably the weakest one, but, like, I like this card. I think it's a fun budget reanimation target. 7 mana for a 6/6 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you put a number of 1/1 black Harpy creature tokens onto the battlefield with flying equal to your devotion to black. If this makes 2 Harpies from its own CMC, I'm usually happy with that. You do have to sacrifice a creature at the beginning of your upkeep, but usually you're combining this with Smothering Abomination, with your Grim Haruspex, right? You're getting that sack value, that draining gain from Cutthroat, right? Like, this card looks very weak, but in my opinion, I end a lot of games with this. It gives me that little push that I need, that it does for like 50 cents, you know? Nissa Who Shakes the World. I love this card. I think one of the best planeswalkers in Commander, one of the few good planeswalkers in Commander. 3 and 2 green for a 5 loyalty planeswalker, but whenever you tap a forest, you add an additional green, so it doubles your forest mana. And its +1 is put 3 +1/+1 counters onto a non-creature land, onto a land, and it becomes a 0/0 elemental, and you untap it. And that's really important because it basically, you play Nissa for 5, you untap a forest, now you have 2 mana back, you've refunded 2 mana. That makes Nissa, as long as you can utilize that mana or you need it as a blocker to protect it, it either creates a blocker to protect Nissa, or it gives you back 2 mana, making Nissa cost 3, which is insane, right? And her -8 is you get an emblem with lands you control of indestructible, and you search your library for any number of forest cards and put them onto the battlefield. If you do that, you win the game. Even if you play her, you don't usually, she might be the least likely Haymaker to just win the game on the spot. You do need to get to a next turn. But if you get to the second turn with her, the game's over. That's you get all of your untapped forests. That should be GG's. That should be, I don't know if I've ever lost with untapping with her. Rishkar's Expertise, the best green card draw spell in my opinion in most decks that are playing any big green creatures. It is Chinese, so I will tell it to you. It is 4 and 2 green for a sorcery. You draw X cards, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. It might be target. I have to double. It might be target to be fair. And then you get to cast any spell with CMC 5 or less. So you're paying 6 mana. The amount of times this is one of the most powerful cards in the whole deck. The amount of times I have scavenged a Death Shadow on just one. Not even often I'm scavenging both Death Shadow and Dreadnought at the same time. But for this example, let's say it's just Death Shadow. I scavenge Death Shadow onto Varolz. That makes him a 15/15. I play Rishkar's Expertise. I draw 15 cards, and then I play a free CMC 5 thing. Usually casting Nissa, usually casting Angel of Suffering. That's a really good one. This card is, Rishkar's Expertise is just ridiculous. It is the best green draw spell in Commander. If you're playing big, obviously it depends. You're not playing big creatures, which most green decks are. It could depend a bit, but it's so good. And then finally, Command the Dreadhorde. Another card that I'm like not super strong on. I haven't played this too many times in an actual game, but it potentially looks very, very strong. 4 and 2 black. Choose any number of target creature cards and/or Planewalker cards in graveyards, not just your graveyard, but in all graveyards. So for some reason, if your graveyard gets nuked, this gives you a way out of it to abuse other people's graveyards, right? This card does deal damage to you equal to the total CMC of those cards and put them onto the battlefield under your control. If you are not winning the game from playing this card, you're doing something wrong. Like either in deck building or you shouldn't play this card. If I'm playing this card, I'm getting Protein Hulk, I'm getting Tribelder, I'm getting Cutthroat, I'm getting Liliana, I'm trying to flip her and get my Lifeline activated. Like this, I'm winning the game. There's no way. There's no way I'm not winning the game with this card. Card is insane. Card is very good. You have to have enough life left to be able to do it properly is the only thing. But even if you're casting that and you're losing 10 life, that should be enough. I do wonder if I should play a little bit more incremental life gain in this deck if I'm going to be doing that. It's honestly I'll have to think about that. It's a good question. I kind of like the idea of playing like one more weird life. I don't know what it would be though. It'd have to be, I mean, Zulaport Cutthroat gets you incremental life gain. It'd have to be something that's like, it's a good card on its own and it so happens to gain life. That's what I mean when I say incremental life gain. I mean a good card that just so happens to gain life, not, you know, pay 5 mana, gain 7 life, absolute trash garbage. Anyways, next up, Angel of Suffering, or even like I mean, don't even get me started like the Sarah Ascendant stuff. But I mean, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the 1 mana 6/6 flyer, but that I don't think is that good these days, but I don't know, whatever. Next up, Angel of Suffering, 5 mana for this card. Okay, this is the last Haymaker. This was I'll say it once, I'll say it again, one of the most underrated cards in Commander. To be fair, this card becomes less underrated the smarter your opponents are, but I mean, it's just tough to play around. Angel of Suffering is 5 mana for a 5/3 flyer. If damage would be dealt to you, instead, you prevent that damage and mill twice that many cards. Your opponents have 2 options. They attack into you and fuel your graveyard, and then you win the game because you're a graveyard deck. Every single time someone has attacked into me with this on the battlefield, I mill 20 to 60 cards, and then I win the game the next turn. Every fucking time. Every single time it's ever happened. But then if they don't attack into you, congrats, they're not attacking you. You know, you're paying 5 mana for a flying creature that either is preventing your opponents from attacking you at all, which is the smartest decision. They have to remove this before they can attack you at all. It's not even like Ghostly Prison. It's even better than Prison, right? Or they mill you until you win. Or it hasn't happened yet. I do have a fear of this, and I'm sure this will happen one day. The real Digachad strategy would be if you play this and your opponent makes you mill out your whole deck. If your opponent can do enough damage to where they make you mill out your whole deck, they're doing like what, 50 damage, you know, like they're doing enough damage to where you would have been dead regardless. That's kind of what that means. So this card is just a win-win-win. This is often a reanimation target. This is often the best way to fuel my graveyard. This card is, I love Angel. I'm very high up on Angel of Suffering. It does rely on your opponents a little bit, but even if you're playing a 5-mana creature, like sometimes there have been times where obviously where I play it and nobody attacks me and I'm kind of bummed. I want to mill cards, right? But then I realize 2 to 3 turns later, oh yeah, no one's attacking me. Now I've, like, even though I didn't gain the graveyard advantage off of this, I have gained a different advantage and now I win the game because of that. So this card is just a tough thing to deal with. You have to just remove it. Which, you know, 5 mana, getting swords to Plowshare sucks, to be fair. You know, let's be honest. There are downsides to every Magic card. Everything can be counterbalanced. That's the whole point, right? Let's now really quickly cover lands, but I don't have a whole lot to talk about. Like, even this, like, these are all basics. My land base is very minimal, very basic. I love this foil. That's not base. That's awesome. Forest, Lorwyn foil forest, hell yeah. These are all basic lands, and then I have like land fixing or mana fixing lands. You can check those on the Mox field if you want to see more details. Very decent, but very budget. Like I play very scry lands, you know. It is important to have cycling lands. Those are nice. And I should have a Dakmor salvage in here that I don't have, so add a Dakmor salvage, which is the dredge swamp. But the only lands I want to talk about here are these ones. And also, dude, Myriad Landscape is bad, but I like it. That's my honest. This card is bad. You probably shouldn't play it, but I like it in decks as a last resort for ramp when things aren't going my way. It has brought me back in certain games. It is so fucking slow. I would never tell another person to run this card, but I will run it and I like it. That's all I'm going to say about Myriad Landscape. It's nostalgic, to be honest with you. Next up, okay. The big things here are Sequestered Stash is kind of nice. It taps for a colorless. It comes in untapped. You can pay 4 if you just sometimes occasionally I used to have this a lot more, but I've kind of fixed this problem, so this could be replaced by like a forest or whatever. But occasionally, if I just have a really hard time getting my graveyard started, sometimes just having this on a land, being able to pay 4 and mill the top 5 and put an artifact, this also gets Lifeline back, which is why, like, that's part, I'm gonna be honest, I'm so high up on Lifeline that Lifeline recursion is that important to me. Mortuary Mire. People sleep on Mortuary Mire, man. A common land, when it enters the battlefield, you put a creature, you don't have to, you may put a creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. People sleep on Mortuary Mire. This card is fantastic. This card is great in graveyard. I don't see it a whole lot in graveyard decks, man. Cover this first. Road's Passage, very crucial unblockability. It's crazy that 2 of my unblockability sources are on my lands, which is really nice. Road's Passage, classic, crucial unblockability. It's not ideal. It's 5 mana, 4 mana to activate, and then the passage itself. And it's a lot of mana to activate, but the amount of games that I have ended via, like, I just needed 1 more attack. You know, like, this just wins me so many games. I love Road's Passage. It really does. It's that final, the amount of games that end on the final turn, activate Road's Passage, opponent concedes, like that happens. I'm sure that happens to you guys a lot as well. Now, this card is new. Well, newer. It was printed in 2024. Murders of Karlov Manor, right? Murders of Karlov Manor. This card looks like it was made for Varolz. This card is sneakily, disgustingly good. It is a 3rd Evolving Wilds. You can just use it to sacrifice and search for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. It's a 3rd Evolving Wilds Terramorphic Expanse style effect. Or you can sacrifice it, and make target creature with power 2 or less unblockable. Okay. Creature with power 2 or less unblockable, who cares? It's 2 damage. Well, you probably already know this if you're, a Magic player at all, but what you do is you sacrifice this first, make Varolz unblockable, and then scavenge, I don't know, 25 counters on him, and now he's unblockable because this was first, right? Now he's unblockable, then you scavenge onto him and you attack for 25. It's fucking unfair. Like, this card is a new card to the deck. I'm so glad I added it. This card is so gross. The timing has to line up, but, like, once again, worst case scenario, it's a fetch, and I like the Evolving Wilds in my basic, commander decks. I like it a lot. So that is Varolz. That is Varolz, the underrated, Varolz, the star striped. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you were inspired to build either Varolz or build a similar deck, or got something. Hopefully there's something you learned from this to add to your graveyard decks, your aristocrat decks. I've been playing this game for a long time. I think I have the unique perspective, and I don't have the best perspective. I'm not the most knowledgeable player. I'm not the most tight player. I'm not the best player. But I think I have a very unique perspective that I think that no one else on YouTube ideally is offering. Hopefully you guys feel the same way. I like to hopefully add to the space in a new way that people aren't talking about. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you did, dislike if not, subscribe for videos at least once a week. I would love to move to like every 3 to 5 days. I'll have to just see what time I can have. The more you guys subscribe and like the videos, the more I can put more time and love into this channel, which has been an absolute blast to be a part of. You guys have been so positive. I'm going to take a second at the end of this video to spiel, because the internet recently has felt extremely dark and extremely cynical and pessimistic. I think the world's in a very dark place right now in a lot of ways. There are always positives to focus on beautifully, but it's hard, right? You guys have been a shining light in my day-to-day. It's actually insane. The ratio of positive to negative comments on this channel is just so lucky. It is so lucky. It's so insane, and I cannot thank you guys enough for watching at all. For any second you spend here is ridiculous, and I just hope that I can give back to you guys. I hope that I can prove that worth. I hope that I can offer you fun, unique Magic cards, unique ideas, unique strategies that aren't being offered elsewhere. That's my goal at the end of the day. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. I will see you guys later. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Enjoy the magical cards you play, and play with people you enjoy. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Peace, Reno.